ultimately next year, my goal is to break the record for the fastest run across the country. So I was like, holy shit, man. And then as soon as I did that, I was like, I can run across Canada. I made the connection to Terry Fox. A lot of people don't challenge themselves. A lot of people don't push themselves. A lot of people don't chase adversity. If I didn't meet a couple people, I probably wouldn't be here right now. But having said that, I'm so happy I went through all that shit, because now I'm only limited by my imagination. Anything that I think of, I know I can do it. Contrary, the federal government has created programs to actually help them commit suicide. So it's an issue.
That's ridiculous. Welcome. This is live from Langley BC, the #1 podcast in Langley, where we talk to local residents and business owners about local events and businesses. I'm your host, Dan, local realtor. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment, like, subscribe. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Music, leave us a rating, please. And thank you to anyone who's doing that. It really keeps us going. Our guest today is Sach Latti, vet, ex-military, and law enforcement.
Yeah.
Sach, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, man.
Thanks
for having me on.
We finally nailed it down.
Yeah, we made it happen. It only took a year.
I know, right? Yeah, you reached out at the beginning, and I'm glad we went in this direction, because I felt like there was definitely a ceiling.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get everybody, everyone's story, and we were kind of capping it a bit too much. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that we were able to open up the net and then just cast it super wide for you guys.
Awesome.
But for anybody who doesn't know you, why don't you give them a quick little rundown?
Yeah. So I'm Sach of Sach in Motion on Instagram and YouTube and all those things. And I'm a law enforcement officer, ultra endurance athlete, and fundraiser. So I just do pretty much these ultra endurance events, running to raise money for veterans and first responders with occupational stress injuries. And yeah, man, that's me.
Yeah, I've heard tons about you. I've seen you online, and then recently, through a mutual connection, they mentioned you were in the process of doing something pretty big.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe talk about that.
Yeah, man. So so every year I kind of do like a fundraising season where I kind of try to raise funds for the Honor House Society, a charity that supports veterans and first responders. And last year, my fundraising was 22 marathons in 22 consecutive days.
Wow.
So I ran from Revelstoke to Victoria across the province in those 22 days, and we raised 16 grand for the charity. And then this year, my fundraising season is going to be a little bit longer. We're going to run 60K a day for 52 days. That'll be, first month or so in and around the Lower Mainland, all different cities. So Langley's going to be one of the cities I'm going to be running in.
Oh, cool.
I will be doing 60K in Langley, Surrey, Delta, Vancouver. And then, we're going to do Edmonton to Calgary. So Edmonton to Calgary. So I'll run that. And then Toronto to Ottawa. I'll run that. And then we'll do Halifax. And then, we'll do 52 days of that.
Wow. And then is that the world record?
No. So ultimately next year, my goal is to break the record for the fastest run across the country. So really last year and this year are kind of like training blocks to get me prepared for it. So it's a massive undertaking, right? Like I just started running like 3-4 years ago, and to run across the country is no joke, man. Like I started doing research about it, and it's freaking hard, man. Like so the last person that broke the record was a couple years ago, Dave Proctor. He's from Calgary. And he's an ultra endurance guy. He's been doing this stuff all his life, and it broke him, but he did it.
Wow.
And he ran 7,300 kilometers in 67 days in 10 hours. So that's about 105K a day.
That's insane.
But so what sounds crazy is that, and it is straight up, man, it's legit crazy. But what's a bit more or adds to the story is that across Canada, if you were to run it, it equates to vertical gain of Mount Everest 8 times. So that's the elevation gain that you're also doing. So you're doing the kilometers and the elevation.
Wow. Yeah, that'll take it out of you too. It's not just the treadmill.
Yeah, no.
And even then, last time you did your run, I saw that you were running peak fire season.
Yeah, man. So there was a couple reasons why I did that, man. Obviously because I wanted to challenge myself in August in the hottest season, but also in solidarity for a lot of the firefighters and like supporting them and raising awareness. Yeah, I was running in the fires and it was hot and all that kind of stuff, but really nothing compared to what they're doing, right? So, that's what I did.
That's true. I didn't think about it like that at all. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, there's chaos around that time. I think I happened to be in Penticton, and it's like you couldn't see like 10 feet in front of you. Yeah. And I can't imagine, all the firefighters that are in the mix.
Yeah, man.
They're dealing with this face on. And the videos that were coming out were insane, right? Like people were getting trapped in between, and it's unfortunate. But yeah, I heard that, they're coming from all over for that.
Well, they're coming all over North America, man. It's from the States and everywhere. So like, it was crazy, man. Because when we started in Revelstoke, and right when we started those 22 marathons, the smoke started really taking effect, eh? And there was smoke warnings: don't go outside, don't do this, that, and the other. So we were just ahead of each day. So like right when we would leave a town, then the town would really get engulfed.
Oh,
So it was kind of like up until we got to after Ashcroft, it started chilling out. And Ashcroft is, I don't know, like halfway through the province. So it was like once we got to like Pemberton, then it started cooling down.
okay.
And then Whistler, and then it started chilling out.
Closer to the coast.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that people weren't allowed to go to the beach, and you're out there running.
Yeah, it was crazy.
That's nuts. So yeah, you were doing 22 days straight, and now with this other run that you're doing in different cities, are you going to be like, how many days total is that?
So I'm going to do it for 52 days.
52,
Yeah.
And is it like consecutive days, or and you're going from town to town essentially, or you're doing some traveling?
I'm changing it up a little bit, right? So after last year, reflecting on how I did it last year, and then how I could do it better from a training perspective, from a recovery perspective, and also from an outreach perspective, trying to connect with more people. I think this year what I'm going to do is just stay within the Lower Mainland for first half of it, so that I can meet people while I'm running and kind of get more community involvement. And then I will fly to places. So let's say, for example, let's say after 3 weeks, I'm like, okay, I'll fly to Edmonton, and I'll run from Edmonton all the way down to Calgary. So do 60K a day, so maybe take 3 days or something. Fly back home that same night, keep running, go to Toronto, fly to Toronto, and then run consecutively there, come back and do it that way.
Yeah, well, that's insane. Yeah, I mean, like the running, like you're saying, and I saw you too, you were into like bodybuilding at one point. And it's such a mental thing. Like I go to the gym too, and it's like you do like increments of like 1 to 2 hours maybe per day, but it's like running. If you ran for that much every day, you don't have time to take a break. Like constantly, you're just like overcoming obstacles in your head. You have to find a way to distract yourself and keep pushing. And I really got into running myself too recently through like David Goggins. And listened to his book like 4 times.
Which the first one?
That's the Can't Hurt Me one?
Yeah, what'd you think?
Oh, it was great. Like this is right as gyms were letting people back in. Like I wasn't allowed to go to the gym, but like so eventually, like when they did, they were it was a good way to get back on the horse, because there was a period of time where I was like, oh, whatever, I took this time off. It's gonna be harder for me to get back. I'm not worried. Lost all the gains, whatever. So there was no motivation, and then I listened to the story, and I'm just like, what am I complaining about, right? And what do a lot of people have to complain about, like being in his situation? Like, there's no excuse you can have that he won't be able to, like, not shut down, but put into perspective how minuscule it is.
No, I agree, man. And so that's kind of how I started running, right? During the pandemic, I was dealing with my mental health issues, man. I was a hot mess. I was going through a divorce and work issues, and all kinds of stuff were going on. And I was struggling like crazy. I couldn't go to the gym, and I trained jujitsu too, right? So I couldn't even do jujitsu, which was even worse, right? So then I picked up Extreme Ownership, and I read that 𝐏𝐡𝐨𝐧𝐞 book, and then started kind of understanding what the book was saying in the sense of like how taking ownership, not being a victim, own your stuff. And then I picked up Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins' book, and I read the first 2 chapters, and that was good. I didn't need the rest of it. And it just started saying, okay, well, stop whining, stop being a baby, and let's start figuring out how to crawl ourselves out of the ditch that I created for myself, right? And so I started small, man. I hadn't ran since high school, right? And I'm 46. So the last time I ran was like 30 years ago. And I was a lot bigger than I am now. I was a bodybuilder, about 200 pounds, probably same body fat. So I'm about 20 pounds lighter than I was when I first started. And when I started, I was running 3K a week, like 3 5Ks a week. So like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I did that for a while until I started like, I was getting pains. Like it was hard, man. So like anybody who's listening to this, who's saying, oh, this guy's doing this, that, and the other, like running all these things. 3 years ago or 2 years ago, I was feeling all the shit. I was feeling all the pain, man. Like I was trying to run. I was like, oh, my shin splints, my this, my that, all the things, right? And fortunately for me, I don't like quitting. Right. And so I just started doing more research. Like, why am I feeling this? Why is this going on? So I started, YouTubing things and reading books, and because I had the flexibility to do that because of the pandemic. So I was sitting at home all the time. Right. So I just started reading. And through that process, I kept pushing, and I didn't have a coach or anything. I was just doing everything on my own. And I kept pushing, grinding. And then I got to a point where I was like running 10K a day almost. Right.
Wow.
And I was like, oh shit. And for that, doing that, man, I was like, I never thought I could do that. So then I heard Cameron Hanes on a podcast. I heard him on Joe Rogan's podcast. Right. And he was talking about how he was gearing up to do the Moab 240. Moab 240 is a 240-mile race in Utah in the desert. Right. And I was like, what? People do that? Like, I was shocked.
It's a couple of days.
It's 3.
Okay.
I think the cutoff is 3 or 4 days. And so I never heard of that before, right? And I was like, what? And then he kept on talking about how he would train and what he's doing, how old he is, and he's working a full-time job and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, he's in his 50s, working full-time, and he's running a marathon a day for training. So he would run 21 kilometers in the morning, and then at lunch or after work, he'd run another 21. And I was like, holy shit, man. And then I got excited and I got curious. I was like, man, I want to be able to do something like that. I want to do something like that. So then I was like, okay, how do I do that? And then I just set a schedule to say, okay, let me see if I can run a half marathon a day, right? And so for me, I understand that, you can't go from 0 to 60 just like that, right? It takes steps to get somewhere. So I thought, okay, let me start off at 11 kilometers a day and then progressively increase it each week. And then after 10 weeks, I'll get to 21. We'll see what happens. So I did that. Now, mind you, I was still at work. Like I'm in the process of transitioning out of work, so I'm not even there anymore. But like I was at work, I was working full time. I was a dog handler, and I had a daughter, or have a daughter, right? So I'd get up in the morning, I'd run like 10K or something, go to work. After work, hit another 10K, hit the gym, go to jiu-jitsu, take the dog out and go see my daughter and do all the things.
Jeez.
So eventually after 10 weeks, I got to 21 kilometers, and I ran 21 kilometers after 10 weeks. I was like, holy shit, man. And then as soon as I did that, I was like, I can run across Canada. I made the connection to Terry Fox because he was doing a marathon of hope, right? Which is a marathon a day. And, I just thought, okay, how hard could it be? This is how I think. How hard could it be to run half in the morning, then a half in the afternoon? I could do that. I could run across Canada. And that's kind of what started the process of all this nonsense.
Yeah. Well, that's how it starts. Yeah. It always starts like that. Once you start figuring out the steps, and it's like that saying about, don't look at the whole staircase, take it one step at a time. And then once you get to the top, you realize, everything you've accomplished. And then you connect all the dots and you realize how easy it was all along. Right. So yeah, I mean, that's awesome. That's inspiring. Right. And it's funny because I definitely share some of that inspiration from seeing stuff on, online podcasts. Different people have accomplished different things, and you start to realize, like right now, I'm on it's nothing crazy, but it's like trying to go to the gym every single day this year. So far, I'm like missing one day this year, right? Which is like nothing that I would have never thought to try to accomplish, but it's like, what's the point of having a rest day?
But here's another question. Here's another way to think of it. Why do you want to do it every single day?
I feel like because once you take a day off, then you take another day off, and then you stop, pursuing that drive, and you feel like, okay, it's easy to just take another week off, and then that's always been my problem. Is like one day turns to 2, turns to 7, turns to a month, and it's like, oh, well, now I've got to pretty much start over.
So here's another question then. Why is it important for you to hit the gym?
That's definitely just to do personal development, be the best version of myself, essentially. And, yeah, for my family.
No, for sure. And so I think it's important, right? When people are talking about doing anything, hit the gym, making 15 sales, like whatever the thing is that they want to do, right? Why are they doing it? Because if you don't know why you're doing it, forget about getting it done. So now, for example, if you know why you're doing it, prioritize the reason, now the why. So like you have your why, you've prioritized it. The only thing left is take action. So how fast do you want to achieve that thing that you want to do, right? So for example, for me, I set running across Canada, doing all these things as my number one priority in life. So I've attached the utmost priority to it. So it takes precedent over anything else. So that means my training, my nutrition, my circle, the people I talk, everything is surrounded by that because it's my purpose. It's what I'm supposed to be doing. But it doesn't have to be that way for everyone. You can dial it back a bit and kind of say, okay, well, the priority is a 5 out of 10, but I'm still going to do all the things. It might take you a little bit longer to achieve said goal, but you'll get there nonetheless.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, one of the things would be it's tied into family and my relationships and I have a baby, she's 2 years old, right? So it's thank you. It's that's really what, set the fire, but at the same time, it's like, well, what's the point of, spending so much time in the gym that you're not spending time with so now, and then same thing, it's like, okay, well, you're going to spend time with the baby, spend time with the wife, right? Get that balanced out. The gym's like also there. It's very important. Not drinking, for no reason. Whereas usually, you get home, you have a beer, whatever, that's gone. And then on top of that, it's like, well, you need to make sure your family's secure financially. So that always took a back seat for me. But now it's like, okay, you need to balance these three things out and constantly think about, okay, if you spent a lot of time doing this week, okay, well, maybe let that take the back seat today and focus on this. And that's something I wasn't doing until, like you said, you find the why and you realize, okay, well, there's a bigger picture here. You have to strive towards that goal. Yeah, no, it's mind opening for sure. So, I mean, tell me more about like your past then and, the career that you had and what's kind of made you start moving towards like the charity? Because obviously that's coming from a place of experience.
Yeah. So, so I got depression and anxiety pretty severe, right? And I didn't know that up until like you feel certain things and kind of act certain ways. And sometimes you're uncertain as to why these behaviors are happening. So for me, over the last few years, I've been assessing why I act certain ways and why certain behaviors manifest in certain types of ways, right? And what I've noticed is over 18 years working in law enforcement and various other things that I've been doing, they made me, or I responded in ways that were probably not the best. So I would start shutting down emotionally. I would start putting walls up and that as a protective mechanism. So really people weren't really seeing who I actually was. They just saw like, an intimidating, scary type of guy, right? And, when I started going through the divorce and everything, I was like, I want to make some changes here. I want to be authentic to who I am, be myself, and not be scared to be myself. Because I think a lot of times people tend to be scared to be 100% themselves. At least I know for sure I was. So that's part of the reason why I'm doing all this, right? Is because I've worked in law enforcement for a long time. I see everybody.
What did you do?
CBSA,
okay.
Immigration and Customs.
Okay.
But so even so, for the most part, these first responder spaces generally are the same in terms of how people take in the information as they're working. So you work as a cop or as an immigration or whatever.
It's a hostile environment.
Yeah,
it could turn ugly real quick.
It could, right? And if you can imagine, you speak to people a lot, right? So I was talking to earlier today on a different podcast to try to explain to the person, put yourself in, let's say, a law enforcement officer's position. Okay, so now, for example, now you're working 10-hour shift, right? I used to speak to, on average, 500 people a day. 500. And not just high, but like trying to assess risk on 500 people a day. Okay. Now, 90-something% of those people are pretty fine. Like I'd say 98, 99% of those people coming through every single day are okay. About 2% of them are the people that we want to kind of have a conversation with. Right? Now, out of those 2%, you got to figure out who are the real shit rats, right? Because the 2% might be just whatevers. And then maybe a half of that percentage is like the real gangbanger, drug dealer, all that kind of stuff. Now, that doesn't say that all those 99 other % people are going to be nice to you or be friendly or going to be like, why are you talking to me? Or why are you doing this? Or why are you doing that? So if you can imagine, after 20 years of doing that and speaking to hundreds and hundreds of people every single day and then being shit on over and over and over again, at a certain point, people have to figure out or understand that law enforcement officers are human, right? And they're no different than anyone else. And they feel things too. So in order for them not to feel things, they have to put walls up at work. And that's essentially kind of why people feel, when the regular public, they feel like cops or immigration or whatever assholes, because they feel like they're shut off.
Right.
That's kind of what they are, man. So like if you're, let's say, to put in another example for you.
Oh, it's draining. Yeah. Talking to so many people per day.
That, and then also, let's say a paramedic or even a doctor, let's say. How does a doctor tell the family member that their person's dead?
Yeah.
And so what is that reaction for them? So over a period of time, they have to learn how to disassociate, right? And to give the information so they don't feel. So over time, that kind of changes a person. And I noticed it was changing me. Right. And so I wanted to make a shift.
That makes sense for sure. It's not, I mean, people go through trauma in the fields they're working in, of course, but then it's like that side that, people never really see. But I know too, firsthand from my wife working in the hospital and around elderly. Like the other day we were driving through Walnut Grove and she's like, I'm looking at places. as we're driving, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's that townhouse. You know, they have this type of floor plans, and you know, this is kind of rough price point. She's driving by these. She's like, I had a client there that died, client there that died, and I'm like, and she told me, and I'm like, that's crazy because I'm thinking totally different. But that stays with you too, and for her to have to, you know, take it home, right? Luckily, you know, we've done some development to the point where we don't, and we could talk about it to make sure we just vent and not have to deal with it on a long-term basis. But yeah, I can't imagine for people who are not in that environment where they can talk about it.
Yeah, and I think I'm law enforcement, and people make that decision in that career, so they understand what they're getting into. All I'm saying is compassion on both sides is important, right? So like law enforcement have to be compassionate towards the people that they're servicing. I also think at the same time, a little bit of compassion on the general public for these law enforcement officers is needed.
Yeah, it's huge. And that's where I see, you know, a few bad situations that are recorded and then everyone turns and paints everyone with the same brush. Yeah, like it's hard, you know, because you guys get that end of the stick.
And there are assholes everywhere. Doesn't matter where you go, man. You want to buy a house, you can have an asshole dealing with you. You want to go to Timmy's, there's gonna be an asshole giving you coffee.
Yeah.
Same thing in law enforcement.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, that's great that you're doing that, and you're always looking for different, you know, opportunities to do that, which is awesome. Like you're not just like, oh, here I'm gonna try this once and then whatever, we'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
But you've almost devoted yourself at this point.
Well, yeah, man. Here's the my whole mission now is just doing this full time. So hopefully by the end of this year, I'll have created enough to at least pay my bills, right? And that's all I care about, man. You know, I pay my bills, but not only pay my bills, but I want to do something moving forward that actually also not only, I just want to help as much as I can with the skill sets that I have, right? So if I'm running or training or raising awareness, cool. But I'm also, now I'm starting to see another avenue to kind of help people and also kind of help myself at the same time. On the 30th of March, I'm hosting a fundraising gala at the Sandman Hotel in downtown Vancouver. And why is this kind of different?
What's that one called?
It's called The Night to Inspire. And the reason why this is different, at least I think it's different than anything else that's happened so far, is because we have 9 guest speakers, right? And it's going to be a TED Talk style evening with these speakers speaking on strategies and tools on how to manage your own mental health from their areas of expertise, right? Okay, that sounds all whatever, but these speakers have never spoken like this before. And this is the first time these types of speakers are going to be speaking because they're my friends. So it's not like they normally do this. Now, one of the speakers is a buddy of mine, Sean Taylor. Sean Taylor is a retired T1 operator. So that's Special Forces, Special Operations, Canadians JTF2. Similar to, let's say, Delta Force, Navy SEALs, and Green Berets, right? So Sean Taylor is a plank holder. And a plank holder is a name given to these people who were selected to be on that team when it was first created 30 years ago. So Sean is a plank holder. First time that when they created the Special Forces team, he was selected. So he's one of the speakers, and he's going to speak on mindset and the power of it. And not only was he a Special Forces guy, but he was also an ultra endurance athlete. He was a world champion in 24-hour solo mountain bike racing, and he's a coach and all this other stuff. Got another speaker, another buddy of mine, Seb Lavoie, retired Divisional Sergeant Major, ERT, RCMP, motivational speaker, and all around cool guy.
This is some crazy shit.
Yeah, no, yeah, I mean, look, it's all perspective, right? Yeah, he's gone through some stuff recently.
He was prepped for that for the last 3 years.
Yeah. No, and look, he's an awesome guy, and he's got some knowledge that I think can be very helpful for people who are going to be in attendance. We have Julia Shelley, retired UN flight attendant and also fitness champion. Cal Dosanjh, who's the CEO of Kids Play Foundation, a charity that supports kids and gives them opportunities to volunteer and then also play sports and stay away from gangs and drugs. We have another speaker, I think you probably know him, Travis Bader. He's the CEO of Silvercore Outdoors. He also has a podcast.
Oh, I saw him on here.
Yeah, so all these different speakers, we got about 9, including me, and all of them are going to be speaking from their expertise on helping people. But not only that, it's going to be a wide range of people that are going to be in attendance. So we want people to mix and mingle, chat, maybe network, whatever they, just kind of get along. We're going to have the entire evening catered by Moxie's. It's going to be a cash bar, DJ, the whole 9 yards. It's going to be a full night and full gala, so dress to impress kind of thing. And what we're going to do with that, because the buzz and the ticket sales are going quite well. So in the fall, we're going to take that to Toronto, and we're going to have another one there. So, and then likely at the end of the year, do it in Halifax. So we'll probably do these eventually a few times a year and just take them around to help people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always for, personal development. I've heard tons of speeches, podcasts, and it's funny because Seb's speech, we were honored to have him at one of our conferences
Mhm, mhm.
because of Sean's. And that's one speech I'll never forget. And
Awesome.
he tied it in, regarding real estate mindset. And it was like, he took, his background, his experiences, and it just blew everyone's mind because it was the imposter syndrome. And you put that in perspective, and he's going through it on a level that, everyone would never even consider, right? Accomplishing what he's accomplished. And then everyone also has their own struggle in their own lives that are, nowhere close to what the different.
I'm going to stop you there for a second. Only reason for this, look, everyone's own experiences are theirs, right?
Mhm.
And I don't want to say, oh, this person's done more than
Yeah,
that. But
just saying they're different though. Like
they're
in
just different, right?
like in terms of, yeah.
And in terms of like maybe from a traumatic perspective, but having said that, maybe the experiences that Seb has gone through never traumatized him because maybe he had other experiences that had him prepared for those traumatic events. So a lot of times, most people don't, this is important. A lot of people don't challenge themselves. A lot of people don't push themselves. A lot of people don't chase adversity. That's why Seb is the person he is, because he chased adversity every opportunity that he had. So most people will be like, let's say in the real estate space, like, and actually, I don't know many people, but let's just say, for example, business people.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to. Okay, I'll do the sales, but I don't want to do cold calling because it's too hard. So F that. Okay, all right, cool. I mean, but why not? Is it because you're gonna get rejected? Well, you got to take it, and then you're gonna get better at it. The more you do it, the more rejection that you figure out how to accept and navigate through that, you'll get better at those calls. So for me, doing these runs isn't about being a better runner. It's becoming, Goggins, bulletproof mentally. Nothing can touch me. Nothing. You can put me anywhere and you ask me to do anything, I'll make it happen. Because what's happened over the last 3 years is I've seen myself, observed myself do shit I never thought I could do. And now I have confidence and now I have self-worth. These are all things that you can create yourself by doing difficult tasks. And that's why people say chase adversity. It's not to be a badass or anything. It's so that you can be your own version of a badass. Like whatever you want to do, you can do that.
Yeah, it's all about getting out of your comfort zone pretty much.
Mhm.
Because otherwise you just stay in that same monotonous life that
Over and over. It's like,
Yeah.
man, I was there, man, a few years ago. I was like at work, I was running my dog and I was at the carousel, saw my partner doing whatever he was doing and it hit me like a ton of bricks, man. I was just watching, I was like, man, I'm wasting my fucking life. I'm sitting here 18 years. Yeah, and I'm getting paid good. I got a government pension, all the things. And I was sitting there and I'm like, oh man, no, I got to do something else. I don't want to die here. Right?
you had that realization post-COVID or during?
During it. It was kind of during it.
Mhm.
And I was just like, man, I don't want to die here. No, what I was saying really was, I don't want to just live my life how I'm living it and just wait to die because I felt like I was done everything. And I wanted to keep moving forward and keep doing shit. So I think like it was it was so hard and so challenging going through the divorce, struggling there, losing pretty much financially everything. And then dealing with work issues, all the things that were happening all at the same time sucked. Like if I didn't meet a couple people, I probably wouldn't be here right now. But having said that, I'm so happy I went through all that shit because now I'm only limited by my imagination. Anything that I think of, I know I can do it. Now, if I can put that into practice and actually make it happen, like fly, cool. But if I think of something, I really do believe if I just put in enough time, enough effort, enough work, I'll get it done.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, I'm going to keep this on my list of podcasts to listen to on a regular basis because, yeah, you're putting into perspective for me. And it's going to be one of the few podcasts where I have a lot to take from, to be honest.
Hey, man, listen, I'm taking a lot from this just myself too, right? So for me, when I'm sitting around with people and having a chat, I look at them as like synergistic benefit for both of us. You're having a chat with me, which is, I'm blessed to have that conversation. I'm having a conversation with you and we're just sharing wisdom back and forth, right? If whatever I says is cool for you, awesome. And if it's not, and that's cool too, we get to hang out and have a drink and whatever, right? But I think it's my responsibility and Seb's responsibility and people like that to share what we've learned through the shit that we're doing because we understand that not everyone has the flexibility or the opportunity or had the chance to do the things that we have done, right? It takes a lot of time and effort and sacrifice to run 60K a day for 52 days. That means I don't get to see my daughter for 2 months. Now, I think I'm taking full advantage of being divorced and having a shared custody sort of circumstance. But who knows, if I was still married, maybe this doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Because I have to be around, like, you know what I mean? So I look at this as a responsibility and something that I can do for other people, and other people could probably do it better than me, but I just happen to have the time. So
yeah, that makes sense. So you were talking about your charity work for Covenant
Honor House.
Honor House.
Mhm.
We had Covenant House. Honor House. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah,
exactly?
absolutely. So the Honor House Society is a charity based in New Westminster. It's a massive house, right? And they support veterans, first responders, emergency personnel in uniform. So that includes firefighters, paramedics, cops, sheriffs, whoever, active or retired. So you could be retired 20 years, but they'll still help you. Now, what they help with in the Lower Mainland is, in BC, if you are living up north somewhere and you need to come down to Lower Mainland and get heart surgery or some sort of treatment, you can stay at the house for free. And you can not only stay at the house, but you can stay at the house with your family because they have rooms for everybody. And so it's basically a massive mansion where 6 families can stay in, and people can stay there free of charge as long as they need to get the treatment that they need in the Lower Mainland, mental health or otherwise. They also have another facility in Ashcroft called Honor Ranch, and it's on 120 acres with 10 cabins. They have, what they're doing there is expanding it even further so they can have equine therapy to help support people struggling with PTSD and other mental health issues. Also, what they are doing there, if any sort of law enforcement officer wants to have a mental health retreat, they can use it free of charge. Or, like, say for myself, if I need to, like, a week or a weekend or something's going on and I need to recalibrate, I can go there and chill.
That's cool.
So that facility's open to anyone who's a first responder, law enforcement, veteran, whatever, across the country. So they can hit them up and be like, hey, well, you know.
There's only one in BC?
It's the only one in all North America. Wow. So it was created by Alan DeGenova. He's from the BC. He used to be a member of parliament back in the day. He's a real estate guy and all that kind of stuff. He started in 2011. And his vision is to have one of them in every province, right? So I made a commitment to him about 2 years ago saying I'll do my best to see what we can do to raise that awareness to maybe in 20 years there can be one in every province.
Yeah.
Right? So that's kind of...
Is that all of Canada, or is that also included the States, or they probably have their own?
No, yeah, they have their own stuff. They have tons of stuff in the States. But also, if you're an American and you're a service member and you're up here and something happens, you can call them up. Sort you out, man. Because at the end of the day, we're all on the same team here, right? And you know, I got friends down in the States, and you know, we all kind of communicate and chat, and yeah, man, that's what they do. And hopefully, over the next few years, we can generate enough money so that we can have one in every province, which would be kind of gangster.
But I'm not too familiar with, you know, obviously the support from the government on any of this and any of these countries. But I'm just assuming, just from obviously the patriotism down in the States, right, that they have some sort of program where they do have tons of funding for, right? But I don't know. Is that...
yeah, I think there might be a bit of a discrepancy. I'm not 100% certain on the US, but I think it's somewhat similar to Canada. They have a veteran affairs there, and we do here as well, but they're poorly funded by the government, and the service and the waits and all these types of things are horrendous, right? And if you want...
Why do you think that happens?
So Canada doesn't really spend a lot of money on their people that have served, right? The federal governments tend to, over the last so many budgets, have reduced funding for the Ministry of Emergency Preparedness, I believe it is. Anyways, for law enforcement and for military, right? So they've reduced the funding a great deal, and they're probably still reducing. So I think that's part of it. And I think in the States, the difference is, though, they are so much bigger. They have so many more veterans that they all pool their monies together, and you have different organizations that help, right? So they have a lot of access there. We don't.
Right.
So say, for example, if you want some sort of treatment or some sort of expanded help because of the service that you had done and your mental health is just wrecked, there are more places, but I think there's need for even more because Canadians generally don't think of military personnel. We're a pretty left-leaning country, right? So typically
money goes elsewhere.
Yeah, so I think you know, there's a bit of an issue. So part of me speaking and getting out there is to raise that awareness. Hey, you know, they're not getting the support that they desperately need. On the contrary, the federal government has created programs to actually help them commit suicide. So it's an issue.
That's ridiculous. Yeah, let's not spend money on helping them. and then we'll help other people who are not trying to get better, or people who just got here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's an issue, man. But you know what? How we move forward is with the things that I'm doing.
Yeah, and you're creating solutions. You're not just like, because there's people out there, obviously, and I mean, they have no other options, so they have to, reach out, and they're getting denied and everything, and they're in that situation. But it's like, yeah, there's people like you out there.
Well, here's the thing. Think of it this way, right? 40 years ago, Terry Fox did something.
Yeah.
Right? So cancer research and cancer awareness was actually not that prevalent 40 years ago. And he wanted to run across the country and run a marathon every single day to raise $1 for every Canadian for cancer research, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So he's been dead for 40 years now. Take a guess how much money has been raised for cancer research in his name.
And the Terry Fox Foundation?
Yeah.
I don't know, like maybe a few million?
$1 billion.
Wow.
Since his passing, over $1 billion has been raised in his name for cancer research.
In Canada?
In Canada. Well, in part of the foundation.
Okay, right.
Most of it would probably be coming from Canada.
Yeah.
But that's
insane.
Significant.
Yeah.
That's all I'm trying to do, bro.
Right.
So he created the roadmap. All I'm doing is trying to do if I can do 1% of what he did, we're good, man. You know what I mean?
That's enough to buy 2 houses.
I mean,
in Vancouver.
you could do all kinds of stuff to help people, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe buy one house by the ocean.
Yeah. One other honor house, it's probably going to be a tear down in Vancouver or something. No, that's awesome. And I mean, yeah, if you get it across the country, that'd be great. Then they all have those options. And I see you doing all this stuff online too. So obviously, you're going in the right direction, right? A lot of people I find, I don't know, maybe it wasn't because I was involved too much, but I'm finding that there's been a ton of people who made that trek, but they never really got the recognition, or maybe they did. But now where we're at with social media, it definitely helps to have your name out there.
It's a good point, right? So there have been a lot of people that have run across Canada. There've been a lot of them. It's a feat to do it for sure.
Do you know how many people have done it?
I don't know, man. I mean, a lot of people have done it like 6, 7, 8, 9 months, a year,
just slow.
Like they've, maybe 10, 30K, 40K, 50, 60. I have a buddy of mine actually who's from Halifax. He's going to be doing it in another 2 or 3 weeks. He's going to be running 75 kilometers a day. So he's going to be doing that. And his name is Ryan Keeping. Anyways, he's out in Halifax. But but my point, to your point though, I think it's multi-layered and multi-dimensional in terms of the exposure that's needed to actually create that awareness. Most people don't give a shit. So how do you create a buzz? How do you create awareness and maybe a sense of wanting to be involved with something, like trying to get community involvement? And I've been trying to figure that out over the last 3-4 years. And I think I've kind of got it somewhat figured out. It's basically getting on every news channel, every podcast, and learning how to actually speak better and actually deliver the information in a way that is meaningful and it impacts people. And I'm now, over the last little while, I'm seeing that difference. I'm seeing, at the risk of sounding arrogant, because I'm not trying to, but I've been seeing how I fit in amongst all these other people that are doing similar types of things. And some of them are lacking where I'm lacking in the running aspect compared to some of these people.
Yeah.
Because some of them are younger and some of them have been doing it maybe longer or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But they're lacking in the communication aspect and how to build a network and a community around something that is meaningful, not about pumping me up.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
It's because usually you see things about pumping an individual up and so they can make money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not making a dime. I'm like broke as hell. But I'm doing it with passion because I know eventually, as soon as if I lead with a meaningful direction, everything else will kind of work itself out. I'm not worried about the money thing. So I just want to make it so that people want to be part of something and be connected.
Yeah. The purpose drives, more things than money at the end of the day. Because once you have the purpose and you have the impact, then obviously, you get brand deals and stuff, just to, like you said, just make sure your head's above water. And that's all you really need to accomplish. And that's what anybody really needs. But we get caught up in like keeping up with the Joneses, and you need to have stuff that others have. So that's saying
you're so right, man. And you know what? I was there.
Everyone's been there.
I think
I feel like if you're not human, if you haven't
I was there,
man.
And I think I'm very fortunate to be where I'm now because I don't care. I live in a basement suite, man. I drive an old Honda Civic. And I don't really care. I don't need the bells and whistles. I'm cool with just being who I am and training and meeting cool people and raising awareness and funds. And, I've been there. I had the BMW. Whatever. But now I'm happy because I don't have overhead, man.
Yeah.
I can get up.
That's what creates stress. And then it makes you do things that you don't like to do.
Yeah, for sure. The overhead is a huge thing, man. I don't have to, like, my bills in comparison to some people are not that huge, right? I don't have a mortgage to pay for. I got rent, right? I don't have a fancy car. I got a whatever car. And that's basically paid off. So it's like, I'm just happy with, I'm happy not having to impress anybody.
Yeah. And the weight's lifted off your shoulders. And I feel like a lot of people, once they get there, they could care less. And that's when they explode because they're grateful for what they have and then everything else just pours in.
Yeah, I think so, man.
And you have something that's also multidimensional, like you said. It's not just about money and accomplishing, but what you're doing is also healthy, right? So that's also
it doesn't hurt,
the
man.
Cherry on top.
It doesn't hurt, man. I'm in probably the best shape of my life, and I'm 46. You know what I mean? I'm only getting stronger, actually. Like not like from a muscle perspective, but from running.
Yeah,
my running's getting better every day, man. And I'm.
So I want to talk to you about that actually, because your background, you were in the bodybuilding thing, and like me too, like younger, going to the gym just to like for aesthetic reasons and all vanity, and you get to this point. Like for me, it's happened recently where I'm still going to the gym, but the workouts are different. You're more focused on mobility, right? You're focused on like longevity rather than, let me do the same workout every single day for the next year and get that body part that much bigger that you can't tell unless you see a side-by-side comparison. But yeah, how has like fitness changed for you in that sense?
Oh man. So I started in bodybuilding, how old am I? 20 years ago. And, I got into it because I loved the look, right? And Lou Ferrigno, the Incredible Hulk, all that was like superheroes, all that shit, right? And I also liked the challenge of it and how not a lot of people were doing it and learning, because I was learning a ton. But like you said, it got to a point where I'm doing the same thing all the time, and for me, I always want to see some sort of progress. And I would always get frustrated with other people. I'm like, man, these people are coming in here, they look the same all the time. They're not trying to figure out how to eat better or anything. Anyway, so I digress. But I got to a point where I was like, man, actually, I'll tell you exactly when. I had competed in the BC's provincials. I got second place. And I was like, fuck this, man. I should have won. That's what I actually thought in my head.
It's politics too, though. Like even at the highest level.
Sure. But that would be a victim mindset. And for me, I want to have a growth one. And if I were to objectively look at it, I probably could have had bigger legs. I was shredded, though. Bigger legs probably would have made it so that I would have been undeniable. So what I realized in that moment, I had to rely on somebody else, not me, to make that decision. So I didn't like the fact that it was like a pageant. It was someone else's decision. I could have worked my freaking ass off, done all the things, and still that person might not think I'm worth it, right? Whereas if you're in a race or in a tournament, that's on you, man. Like if I mess up, that's me. It's not coach's fault. It's no one else's. Right. So I don't want to leave it in the hands of somebody else. So that's after I got second, I was like, you know what, I'm done with this. And I had been training and competing for almost 10 years at that point. And I was like, screw this. So then I was pretty in limbo for a bit. I was kind of training still as if I was competing, but I wasn't. So I looked like I was a competitor walking around. And then my ex-wife was pregnant, and we found out we were going to have a daughter, and I was 39. And I was like, okay, I'm going to start jiu-jitsu. Because I was like, I need to do something, man. And I want my daughter to know how to do jiu-jitsu. So if I know some, then maybe I can teach her, right? So I started learning jiu-jitsu at 39. And that kind of reinvigorated me again. Because I was like, oh, this is new stuff. Get to learn something new. Get to meet new people. Get to hang out with other people. Hear how other people think. Instead of that whole space of bodybuilding, it was all like I knew everybody. And it was just like, I was good. I just didn't want to deal with it anymore. And getting into the jiu-jitsu space was awesome, man. I started competing within the first 9 months, and then I did okay and kept competing over and over again. And yeah, and then eventually the pandemic and all the stuff, and then I started running. And why do I like doing new things, man? Because the process of learning everything through that new thing, that new endeavor is just...
If you're not learning, you're dying, pretty much. Like if you're not always pushing yourself to learn new,
yeah, man,
like you're literally stagnant. But now hearing... there's podcasts out there. One guy I listen to all the time, Alex Hormozi, he's the same thing, right? So he's always learning new things. And that's what the passion that drives them every day. Otherwise, you get in that routine of like stagnant and, repetitive behavior. And then you basically, what is it? Your dreams start to fade on like what you're trying to accomplish. And it's when you see that new thing that you're trying to inspire for, that's when the fire lights.
It does. But I think if you don't already do this, I'll suggest one thing. So I do new things or try to do new things frequently, but I don't let go of them. So I'll keep a 10-year plan on each one of the new things that I'm doing.
Yeah. I started doing that at about 25.
Yeah.
So like I used to before.
Because if you're doing it for a short period, 1 year, 2 years, okay, cool, whatever.
Yeah.
But you can keep that.
Yeah.
And you can slow down the pace on learning on it, but you can still keep it. And then over 10 years, you're going to be savage, right? So that's what I try to do now. Like, I haven't given up jiu-jitsu. I still teach. I teach kids classes 3 times a week, right? So I'm
Where
still
do you teach?
GB Cloverdale, Gracie Baja in Cloverdale and in White Rock. So, I'm still touching that. I'm still at the gym. So I still have everything. And now I'm taking on running. And now I'm learning how to write. So I want to be able to write more. So how do I, I've got a book sitting on my table. How to write this, that, and the other. So I can read that. So little things you can start adding to and then put projects, 10-year projects onto them. And with that, you're not pressured to get them done quickly. You just keep doing it every day. What's that 1% better, right?
Yeah.
Just keep doing it.
Yeah, chipping away at it. And that's what, I think that's the problem was growing up is like you want to go super fast. And then when you don't get that result, you're like, okay, on to the next thing. But then, at around 25, and I was talking to another, a bunch of acquaintances, friends, they're all saying around that age, something clicks where you're like, okay, done with, messing around, time to get down to work. And that's when you start to focus on things long-term. You look at it 10, 20 years, or you start thinking it of as like, you're going to do this for the rest of your life. And that's like the best mindset that I've adopted recently too, is because then there's no end date.
There shouldn't be.
Yeah.
End date should be when you're dead.
Yeah.
That's when you're done, right? Because like, it's so cool to think that way. Because like, and I made this connection a few years ago. It's like, to become an Olympic athlete usually takes about 10 to 15 years, right? And to become a black belt in jiu-jitsu takes about 10 years. To become a PhD in something takes about 10 years. To do anything or become exceptional in anything, 10 years. And so I've been watching a lot of stand-up stuff. It takes about 10 years to get good at stand-up. It takes about 10 years to be good at anything. So if you spend 10 years trying to consistently, not going crazy, but you can 3-4 times a week doing something, over 10 years, you're going to be pretty exceptional at it. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that's a pretty good.
Just keep adding things. Just adding things, man, because we're living till like you're 80. So why not keep
probably longer now?
Yeah, I mean, whatever, right? So why not just keep adding little things that interest you? I'm not saying learn some shit that you don't want to learn.
Yeah, no.
But if something that like intrigues you, cool, man, just add it to the list.
But it also puts in perspective things. So that's another thing is I stopped saying yes to a lot of things because I started to think, okay, I'm going to do this for a long period of time, like my whole life. What am I going to be willing to do my whole life? Not what am I going to do for the next 6 months? But we're getting close to the end, so I want to get into these before it gets too close.
Yes.
So I got some, we like to try things here on the podcast and usually local things.
Yes.
We like local.
Yeah.
So these two are jerky, local, one from Toronto, not that local, but still kind of local. And the other one's from Moose Jaw. It's not a moose jaw. This one is actually beef. No, this one's bison.
Nice. Let's give it a go, man.
Bison jerky teriyaki.
Be less fat.
I'll let you open that one.
All right.
And this one right here is some Wagyu.
Oh, that's going to be nice.
So,
that's going to be creamy.
This is the most expensive little jerky I've ever bought. Guess how much this was?
I don't know, man. How much? 25?
It's up there. Yeah, around $20. Yeah.
So
Sure.
did you know that this is the
You can be loud here.
little bit of useless knowledge. For it to be actually Wagyu beef, it has to be Japanese beef, right? So if it's usually Australian or New Zealand, it's not technically Wagyu. But if the cow is from Japan, then it's Wagyu.
Well, I just overpaid for it.
No, because the reality is you can't get Wagyu pretty much anywhere. It's all New Zealand.
That's
shit.
crazy too, because you go to these restaurants downtown and they charge you how much for a little sliver of beef and Wagyu beef just because it's marbled and
well, it's the breed is that cow, but it's like when you have champagne. It's only champagne. It's from that province of France, right? That's champagne, right? But anyway.
Oh wow!
Enough of my nifty shit.
Okay. Well,
This looks like licorice to me, and I'm gonna crush this. Oh.
It's a Wagyu beef. It's like pepper.
Well, I'm having teriyaki cowboys caviar. Yeah,
There you go.
from Saskatchewan.
Moose jaw. That moose.
Oh, that's good, man. The one from Moose Jaw is
That's bison. You eat bison?
Yeah.
Regular basis?
not a regular. I used to back in the day. I'm not too worried about fat content anymore. Because I'm running so much.
Oh, no kidding.
I eat ice cream almost every single day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. So, like, I grew up playing soccer, right?
Yeah.
And so I still play, and I also still run.
Mhm.
But it's funny because, like, I eat
Mhm.
the worst foods. Don't really put on. I've tracked my weight for the last, like, almost 2 years. It's stayed the same. Hasn't gone up much. Like, it fluctuates same.
Mhm.
So it's crazy how, like, staying in shape and
Well, I mean,
working out
it's all
and
about
eating.
output, how much you're putting out and versus how much is going in, right? And, if I'm running a lot, like, for example, when I was running across the province, I was eating everything I could possibly eat. I still lost 15 pounds.
Wow.
I lost 15 pounds in 22 days, man. I was like, if I showed you some pictures, you'd be like, whoa, bro, what's going on? But I was eating ice cream. I was probably eating 7,000 calories a day, 7,000. But over 22 days, you can never catch up on those caloric deficit, right? If it's 1 or 2 days, you can manage it.
Yeah.
Over 22 days, you're never going to catch up on that food.
It's almost like you're on permanent keto.
You are,
then.
essentially. So that's why, for me, in preparation of my next one, I got to kind of get a bit fatter, a bit heavier.
Okay.
And then
That'll affect your times a bit, though.
I'm not worried about times. I just want to get it done, right? Because it's really, this is not a...
Your pace.
My pace will be in around 6 minutes a kilometer for 60K. So whereas for the marathons, I kept it about 7 just so I could manage them. So I'm better now. So I think I can keep it in and around 6 minutes a kilometer for the entire duration. The goal for breaking the record, I got to be under 6 minutes a kilometer for 110 kilometers every single day for six days. It's ridiculous.
Plus incline, all that.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how that turns out, man. But at any rate, I wasn't able to run a fucking marathon 2.5 years ago, right? So like, when I get to the point of running across Canada, pretty sure I'll get close to the record. And if I break it, fuck man, I'll buy you a box of these things.
Cherry on top. Yeah, so this one's good. So the Wagyu one is, it's got some pepper in there, two salt, pepper, and beef flank steak. So pretty,
So what do you think? Have you tried that one yet?
No, I'm having it right now. Oh, this one's sweet. Well, it's teriyaki. This one's got a bit more flavoring, though.
I like the teriyaki one better, man.
It's good.
Yeah. Less fat.
But this is like jerky, right? So it's a mix. It's like a grind. We had a farmer in, and she told us what's in these old jerky. I mean, depends. We don't know how this was made, but
so it's probably got some circumcision stuff in there.
Definitely some giblets. No, it's good.
Good, man.
Where can people find you?
So, Instagram at such.in.motion. Got a website, suchinmotion.ca. Got YouTube, Such in Motion. TikTok, Such in Motion. So just check any platform other than Twitter. I'm on pretty much all of them. And Twitter and Snapchat, I'm not on those. But
Twitter's like a toxic relationship.
I'm good, man. I don't need any more drama. I'm good on that one.
I have Twitter X. Or news, right? Because they post some pretty cool, breaking news on there for real estate purposes.
Yeah.
And then I end up scrolling, and it's just like violence videos, and I'm like, stop, get off.
Yeah.
It's just so hard once you start seeing that, because you're just like, can't believe you already know what's going to happen, and your brain just triggers. It's like fight or flight, and it's like, you got to watch now.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Well, that's why for me, I curate everything in my social media now. Because I know me, man. If I start looking at stupid shit, I'm just going to keep looking at it. So I don't follow anything anymore. I don't follow anything that can be distracting.
Right.
I only follow things or people that inspire me, motivate me, or let me know that I need to do more.
It's funny because some people, like me, same thing. Like I look at other people achieving things, and in the pit of the stomach, you're like, that's awesome. Why am I not doing that?
Yeah.
Motivates you. And then nowadays you have people who see that and they're like, I'm not where I want to be. And then they get down on it. I'm like,
and then they'll crap on that person. And
and then they're like, they're taking social media breaks for reasons because their, mental health is like, I'm comparing myself. And I'm like, you don't know their story. That could be fake, and that's what people are getting busted for now.
It's true. Well, a lot of them, man. I've seen a bunch of people, even like some of these, bodybuilder websites and all this kind of stuff. You see a lot of people using a lot of like Photoshop and like making edits and stuff. I mean, whatever, man. I think I think how people can overcome that shit is by just it might sound redundant or do hard things, man. Do some shit and make yourself proud, right? And don't make anyone else proud. Don't try to prove shit to other people. You want to do it for yourself, man. And finally, at the age of 46, I get it in that regard. I'm not trying to prove nothing to nobody. I'm just trying to do my best and see what I can do and let the chips fall where they may.
Well, that's a great way to end things. I'm going to clip that. I can't wait. There's going to be so many good golden nuggets in this this episode. I'm
Cool, man.
excited for
I'm
them.
glad, man. I'm just,
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
glad
yeah,
this
no,
worked
thanks
out.
for coming on. I appreciate it. And thanks for tuning in to Live from Langley, BC. If you're still here, don't forget to subscribe and rate us. We make videos like this every single week. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.